Hello people of YouTube, it's Deepak here, and welcome to the DCS news for the 26th of March 2022. I salute you all. Hello there, Stevie B, welcome to the stream. I hope everybody enjoyed that most recent tutorial on the Hornet. Sorry there's been that gap between when I did the last one and when I did the current one. Being on vacation and then being unwell kind of set me back slightly, but I'm back on track now and I expect to be releasing videos every week again as before. That one, the most recent one, was the laser guided bombs. After that, I'll probably cover other guided munitions, things like the GPU-24, the JDAMs, the laser JDAMs, and so on. I also put a little poll into the tutorial video there asking people what they'd like to see me do next as a tutorial. So I think the options were A10, MiG-21, Apache, and Gazelle. So feel free to give your opinion, and we'll see what people like. Welcome to the stream, Dave. Welcome, Frantic Stone. Welcome, Mr. Yeti. Yes, welcome everyone. And as always, as we're going to be doing the DCS news, let's bring on board the one and only, the dotChuckles. Hello, sir.
Hello, good evening everyone. Welcome. It's another Saturday and another news. I am a little bit less hirsute today. I was at the barber and had my winter coat taken off, so I'm all summer ready. And it is weird right now in Scotland. It is summer.
Yes.
In the end of March. It's bizarre. I went out today and it was like, it's hot. There's a big glowing thing in the sky. I don't understand it. I don't like it. I want to go home.
It's all terrifying and strange. Here in Sweden, we're experiencing first spring, but of course, there will be a gap and then we'll experience second spring, because that is the way of Sweden.
Yes, it's very strange. I don't get it. It's all warm and sunny and pleasant, and this is our summer, and it will now rain for the rest of the year. So there we go. That's how that goes. Anyway, shall we do the news?
Yes, indeed. Welcome to the stream, Rel, Byron, Mr. Yeti. Welcome everyone. So good of you to join us. Yes, it's been eventful. It was terribly unfortunate that I wasn't well for last week's stream, because I think something happened. There was like a thing that happened with DCS. It was a big thing. We'd been talking about it for a while, and then it just happened.
I think it happened, and we weren't around last week, so like
we're not going to
missed
talk about it.
So I think we should just move on and just so Razbam had an update, which was really interesting. Which got fuck off. Of course we're not going to move on. Of course we're going to talk about it.
We're going to talk about the dunk 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 dunk. Obviously.
Oh my god. Yes, Apache release. Jesus. The biggest thing that has happened in DCS probably since the A10. Well, even though the A10 kind of technically predates DCS in a way.
Yes.
Yeah, probably then if we're going by the strict definition of things, probably the biggest thing that's happened in DCS, I'd say. And
it's the biggest thing in DCS since the Christian Eagle.
Yes. Yes, we'll go with that. We'll go with that. And it's really separating the chaff from the wheat, is what it is, because there's a lot of screaming on the forums about why it isn't flying right, and it's kind of like, yeah, it's because you have preconceived notions about how these things work, and now you're finding out that your preconceived notions don't match up to what the reality is.
I found it quite interesting, especially the discussion around the way the controls work and the way the trim works, because these are all the exact same things that people were saying when the KA-50 came out. Oh, it's not working, why is it not working? It's like, because that's not how a helicopter works, mate.
Yeah, I know. And I mean, I think the thing is as well is that we for whatever reason, probably cost, force feedback is not a thing that features in high level flight sim gear.
It's sad. I wish it did.
It is sad because I think there would be a market for it, and all of the problems that are going on in the forums and about people saying, "Oh, it doesn't fly right," and no, is because people don't have force feedback and they don't understand what the trimmer is doing when you engage release trim, and how the onus is on you to replicate that process by recentering the stick.
Yeah.
And there's all sorts of people calling about trim reset, and it's like, no, stop it. Just understand what the trim is doing and what your role in it is, and learn to fly.
Like,
but hey ho.
Some fixed wing aircraft have trim reset, but even fixed wing aircraft generally don't have it. I don't even know. There must be some helicopters that have a trim reset, but that's probably pretty rare.
I can't think of a single one. Not that saying that it doesn't exist, but the catastrophic in-flight upset that you will have when you hit that button. And then I know exactly what will happen. Is we'll have an equal amount of bitching on the forum with people going, "I pressed the trim reset button and I crashed and my helicopter exploded."
Yeah, that could happen. That very much, you got it trimmed all the way one way, you hit the reset and it's like, it's suddenly going to slam in the other direction. Yes, your helicopter is probably going to lose control. That's going to happen.
Yeah. But all that aside, oh my God, is it good?
Yes.
Oh my God, is it good?
It is good.
And it is complicated. I mean, I'm not going to lie, and it's.
And we don't even have it all yet.
Yeah. I mean, it is complicated. But if you want to just get in and fly and shoot stuff, it isn't that bad. No. It's like in terms of,
especially if there's two of you.
Yeah. It's if you want to fly it realistically and go through all the procedures. Yes, it's complex, and yes, we don't have the FCR or the interferometer yet, and all that kind of stuff. That's going to make it really complex. But if you want to just get in and fly. It is not too bad. Like I would say, whilst the George AI is really dumb, he's not that bad. And if you're just picking up the Apache and you want to get in and you want to go pew pew, you can actually, and it's it's in a reasonable state that you can do that. There are some problems. Desync in multiplayer being a big one, certainly between the front and the back seats if you are bringing a friend along for the ride, and having a human CPG, yes, which we definitely advocate. There are some fairly major desync issues which no doubt they're going to get fixed. I think, but for week one, not bad. Like, it's really not bad.
Yeah. Well, me and you took it up pretty much on day one. I went to CPG because I wanted to be lazy and just sit there with my Xbox controller. And I have to say, the experience of just controlling the TEDAC with a Xbox controller, pretty bloody good. I found it easy enough to control. I had a good time. Pretty good stuff.
There's a lot of control schemes out there now for doing exactly that, just mapping the TEDAC to an Xbox controller. I have one that works pretty well, but certainly what we've been discovering over the week is that people coming into the helicopter. There's a lot of people that will come in and go, "Oh, I don't want to fly. I just want to go front seat and gun things and go pew 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 pew," and it's like, you do realize that you still have a really high workload. And that's what we've been finding about the people that have been sort of sitting in the front seat on the various things that we've done, is that they've still got a really tough job, probably just as tough as the pilot, So,
yeah, and they should absolutely be qualified pilots as well. Let's quickly catch up with the chat.
So they can understand it. Yeah.
Frantic Stone, thank you very much. It's very, very kind of you to provide some money. He's being a bit cheeky towards you again, dotChuckles. I don't approve. Morzo.
He's sacked is what he is.
Morzo, hello, and of course, Slava Ukraini.
Indeed, sir. All the power to you.
Yes. Thank you very much, Storm Barry. Also very, very kind to donate. And of course, yay to 4K subs. I never even mentioned it. It came and went, and I sort of forgot about it. We're on, about 4.2K now, which is brilliant.
Yeah, 4.16 apparently, according to the numbers. So
nice. Really good. Hello, Paul. Hello, Stevie B. Let's see. Tech Gaming. They want a realistic airframe with cheats. Mr. Yeti, the UH-1 has trim reset, and you hit it and it goes wild. You need to return to neutral slowly. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Let me see. Anything else that we should address? Nope, that's pretty much it, I think. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
So he Frantic makes a point. He paid good money for his question, right? So what this comes from is our first operational mission in the Apache. We had a FARP set up about halfway between where our forward operating base was and the target area was, and the FARP was set up with the vehicles in a forest and just the fueling area just outside the forest and a windsock. And I was coming in first and I was orbiting it, and I just wasn't paying attention, and I thought I was landing into wind, and I wasn't. I was landing with a honking tailwind, and I wondered why I was suddenly having all sorts of issues, and why I hit the deck really hard, and effectively dynamic rolled over, and all sorts of stuff. And I was a bit task saturated because it was first operational mission, and I have had the piss ripped out of me constantly for this, and it's getting a little old now because it's like, fine, shit happened. But apparently what happened was Frantic was up orbiting waiting for his turn to cover the FARP, and he just goes over the radio, winds the other direction, genius. Now I couldn't hear him because my CPG Zen in the front seat is laughing his ass off as I am basically cocking this up entirely, because 20 seconds before this all occurred in the orbit, he was sitting in the front seat, and Zen is a smart ass. Love him to bits, but he's a smart ass. He came on the intercom to me and basically said, "All right, first one in at the FARP. Don't fuck it up."
Yep, that's it.
No pressure.
Gotta make this look good, squadron leader.
Yeah. Of course, what do I do? Totally fuck it into the ground. So much hilarity ensued, and basically I've been getting it tight ever since then. So that's fine. You've paid your money. You've had your bit of fun. Now shut up about it.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. They you're just too good a target. Being the guy in charge. Oh well,
that's
fair enough.
That's it.
Shall we perhaps move to the DCS newsletter and begin the news proper?
Yeah, I think like we've talked enough about the Apache. It's awesome, and it's highlighting why people really need to put some time into understanding rotary. It behaves very realistically, like I've discovered, loss of what people think they're getting into when they get into VRS and vortex ring state. They're not. They're simply just settling with power, and it's recoverable, so they need to learn that. And the one thing that I found is you can get LTE, or loss of tail rotor effectiveness, very quickly in the Apache. You run out of power to send through the gearbox, the tail rotor, really, really quickly, because the H64D is actually a little bit underpowered. And they fixed that with the E model, but the version that we've got, its engines are a little bit asthmatic. So if you start demanding tons of power out of it, you're gonna suddenly start finding, why can't I turn left? And it's like, well, there's your LTE starting, and you need to start learning all these tricks about real world helicopter flying, Yeah, otherwise you're going to take to the forum and complain, and then some real-world Apache pilot's going to come along and go, "What are you? What are you? You're a dick. That's what you are."
Didn't Westland address this in the British version of the D?
Well, they put honking great. They put honking great big engines in it, is what they did.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
They put, which is why in the British Army you will see all our Apaches have the death donut on it, whereas in the US only Lead has the radome on, and the others don't, and it's because of this weight. You know, there's no point in carrying half a ton of stuff when your engines are already kind of maxed out. And when Westland put in the larger Rolls-Royce engines, it meant that all the helicopters could carry the radar system and not have to suffer the penalty of the weight. Although when the US brought in the E model and gave it the more powerful engines, I think they still only put the death donut on the Lead aircraft, and the rest don't have it, and they rely on the Longbow network. But I could be wrong. Feel free to correct me, as everybody always does.
And that is, of course, the great feature. Even if you do only have one flight member with the radar, he can effectively share those targets with all the other flight members anyway via the link, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. The FCR and Longbow Longbow Net when it comes along, that's going to be yet another game changer with the Apache, and it's going to be yet another massive system for people to learn, because right now we've effectively got an AH-64. I'm not going to say A, it's actually more like the C model that never really happened and was on paper only, where you've got you've got an upgraded Apache with all the cool optics, but you don't have a radar on it. So when we get the radar, when we get the FCR, that is probably, between that and the battle management page, is probably the most complex part of that weapon system. And it's going to take a lot of brain power to understand not just how to physically use it, but how to tactically employ it. It's going to take a lot of stuff. It's going to take a lot of brain power doing that. So yeah, there we go. Apache.
Apache, yeah. So, into the newsletter, we're going to talk about the Apache, because this is last week's newsletter, which of course we didn't cover last week because we weren't here. But the latest DCS Open Beta is now available, and we're excited to announce the DCS AH-64D as the ultimate addition to your hangar. So yes, much excite, and there is a launch trailer which I recommend you all watch. I'm not even going to bother playing it for us because it's all copyright music and we can't have the audio on anyway. So yeah, there you go. H64D is one of the most complex projects we've undertaken, and it has pushed our team to new heights. The early access features are now complete, and we thank you, our faithful community, for your patience and support. We look forward to your feedback and comments with great eagerness. Thank you. Also included is the massive update to the FLIR technology that will be available for the A10C2 Tank Killer, F-16C Viper, FA-18C Hornet, and GF-17 Thunder. And it actually, on Razbam's Discord, they initially said it wasn't in the Harrier build that came with Open Beta, but then they said actually it is. And to be honest, having flown it, I can't really tell. It's definitely different. It definitely looks very different, in fact, and like the levels and the gain are totally different. But I've not really been able to figure out if it's the proper implementation or if it's something they accidentally included. But anyway, the Harrier has something.
Yeah.
So yeah, very exciting. Is Longbow Net like the Link 16 on the F-16? Asks Mr. Yeti. The answer is yes and no. It's a data link, but it's a completely different type of system and entirely incompatible. Where Link 16 has the capability for airborne targets, ground targets, transmitting waypoints and so on, Longbow Net is really very centered on air-to-ground stuff. I don't think Longbow has any air-to-air component.
it does. You can put the radar into an air-to-air mode, but I think all it actually does is take the scan line and tip it up. So I don't think it's just kind of, it just lets you know that there's something there. There are bridges between the data links, but I think you need the appropriate command and control aircraft in the air to be able to do that through AWACS. So, F-16s can basically data link stuff to the Apache, but it has to go through a
gateway.
A gateway. But yeah, Longbow.net is it's really complex. It's not just kind of sharing effectively SPs and target areas. You can build entire battle plans. You can share control zones and control points. You can define fire zones and send them off to each individual Apache in the flight. So as flight lead, you can basically draw boxes and go, right, everything in that box goes to Chalk 1, that one Chalk 2, that one Chalk 3, that one Chalk 4, and you can then basically command fire all simultaneously at targets, and you don't end up with like other people's Hellfire's hitting other people's targets, and it's all managed, and Longbow.net makes that possible. Basically, it's a fairly amazing system.
Sounds rather advanced. Yeah, so they're saying that we're working to later deploy the improved FLIR technology to all other compatible sensors, third-party modules, and DCS combined arms soon. So they're suggesting it's not in combined arms, and they're suggesting that by default it's not in third-party modules yet. So hopefully that's coming soon. And then they continue to talk about the Apache for the rest of the newsletter, pretty much. So yeah, basically a whole load of thank you for your support kind of stuff. I don't know if there's anything really that important to call out. At early access release, the H-64D includes a rich feature set that will allow almost endless gameplay. This includes near-complete external and cockpit art and animations, including new pilot models. Most of the avionics are fully operational, such as the TSD, the iHads, and numerous multi-purpose display pages. Early access sensors and weapons include the TADS, the PINVIS, night vision goggles, the Hellfire, the laser version of the Hellfire, the Hydra 2.75-inch unguided rockets, and the M230 chain gun. Flying the H-64D is made easy with its advanced flight control system. Online multi-crew is available at early access, we can confirm. And single pilot or gunner operation is truly special thanks to our advanced George AI. In the coming months following the early access release, the fire control radar-guided Hellfire missiles, data link between flight members, and more will be made available. And then they talk about the pricing. And it's available in free to play.
The Apache is that's where the Apache is really going to shine, is when we have those features. Right now, we're basically operating the Apache like it was operated in the 70s and early 80s, with the benefit of optics and sensors from the early 2000s. But when we get the data link and we get the FCR, that's when magic is going to happen with the Apache. The other thing that was just mentioned there that I think is worth pointing out that might sort of alleviate some of the frustration that new pilots are experiencing with the Apache is that what you have to remember is that the stability augmentation system, the SCAS, and the modes that are attached to that, we only have one mode right now, which is the attitude hold. There's another 2 modes to come, effectively. And the thing about the attitude hold is that the attitude hold is context based. So if you're flying along, normally it'll just hold your attitude. But if you hit it, I forget, it's like below 40 knots, it goes into like a special slow control mode. And if you hit it below like 3 knots, it effectively goes into a hover position hold. So it'll try to keep you like where, in the bob up box. And you also have an altitude hold mode as well by flicking the hat switch to the right. So a lot of people are kind of really struggling with the flight control system, and it's like, just remember, there's more stuff coming down the line. This is not it. Like, the Apache doesn't just fly on those automated systems. I stress anything, if you're wanting to know about the Apache, go and check out Casmo TV's YouTube channel. Always. Because he's just done a video on this exact thing about the other modes that it has. That, you know, he's talking about the mode that it currently has, but he makes mention of all the other modes. And if you can get hold of the Dash 10, because it is out there, open source, you'll find there's a diagram in it that explains all the context modes that Attitude Hold has. So bear with it. Bear with it. It will get easier.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I guess the other thing to note is that this is the very first iteration of the early access release. So you may even find that, you know, the flight model, the flight control systems, and those stability augmentations are not quite finalized as yet. Subject to change, as they say.
Yeah. Definitely, because I've noticed I've been spanked by things, and I've got all sorts of system failures, but no warnings yet.
Aha.
So, you know, yeah, no master cautions on things like, you know, I've had a pylon blown off and I'm missing an engine, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, I would have had some kind of master caution go off at that, but no, apparently not.
Apache is not bothered. So that was last week's newsletter, and we have this week's newsletter. There's really nothing going on in this week's newsletter, to be honest, except for the SimFest flash sale. That's the kind of most important thing, because apart from that, they talk about...
Sorry, I was going to say, I like that they finally they've done a comprehensive list of what is discounted this time, because sometimes they just go, there's a sale, and doesn't really give a list. Sorry, carry on, I cut you off.
No, that's all right. And then the other thing they say is that they consider the launch of the H64D to have been successful, and actually I would agree with that. This is one of their good launches, I would say, for sure. We're incredibly thankful to our faithful community and for their support and their positive feedback. We're now working on a hotfix, and we'll continue to resolve bugs and add features to the H64D and the Mi-24P Hind. They've not forgotten about you Hind pilots out there. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. And then, yes, there is the SimFest flash sale. Modules that have 30% off are the A10C2, F-16C, F-18C, GF-17, Supercarrier, Channel, and Mi-24 Hind, and then they list a bunch of campaigns which also have 30% off. This would be a good time to take advantage of those discounts, and also keep in mind that if you're using the standalone launcher, you also have the trial periods that you can make use of as well, which is a good thing to do. And then they say they're developing the AI voice system. So we're working on voice commands for our AI co-pilots in the Mi-24P Hind Petrovich and H64D George. We expect this system to react to certain player commands while also automatically spotting and reporting targets. We also intend to have a variety of different attitude states for the virtual AI pilots with corresponding voice lines for the same events. This is the first that I'm hearing of this, actually, and it sounds like they're trying to move more towards what Heatblur did with Jester, where he's quite reactive and realistic, which is nice.
So I think the attitude states, I mean, like the 3 attitude states, I can guess that they'll probably be bored, sarcastic, pissed off.
What about scared?
Rather than normal, aggressive, or scared, it'll just be bored, snarky, pissed off.
Yes,
that's been my experience of front seaters.
Yeah, what are you doing?
Hey, what are you doing? Yeah, pretty cool though. I mean, like one of the best versions of that. Like, Heatblur was really good, but I want to call out a game in development called Gunner Heat PC.
Oh yes.
Yes. Which is kind of like, if anybody remembers Steel Beasts, and it's like Steel Beasts, but not with the ridiculous licensing model and cost. And it will be available on Steam, but if you go to their website, they have a downloadable demo. And of course, it's simulating modern tank warfare. And the thing that I like about that is that if you're in your Abrams or your Patton, and a T-72 comes over the hill like 2 kilometer ways, the gunner's just like, tank. 2 kilometers, like normal, but he gets increasingly more jittery and increasingly louder as the tank gets closer until it's
tank front fire. Yeah.
Like his tension level ramps up the closer it gets. It's really well done. So if you like your tank combat, go check out the development on this, because I think it's going to be something special when it gets finished. But if they did something like that, it would be really good.
That would be cool. And that's what I assume they mean when they describe these attitude states. And Jester very much has this kind of thing. Like, if once you're into the merge, he gets progressively more panicky, which is cool. So yeah, I hope they do something like that. Cool. And then the last thing they talk about is the Black Shark Den, and this is just another example of them calling out a DCS online server that they think people should go and take a look at. So that's cool to see.
Yeah. Shall we check in with Kat again before we move on?
Yes. Well, you had a question from Irish Pat.
Yes, I did. Irish Pat 64 asks, "Hello, dotChuckles. How are your controls working out? Are you sticking with what you talked about pre-release?" Yes, I am, because it is actually working out pretty well. There is a ton of stuff on both on the HOCAS on with your collective and stick, and with the TEDAC. But what I have found is that you really don't need to map it all. There is stuff that like the buck system, and the chop button and things like that. You just don't really need it. So what I found is that you can really map everything that you need to a decent HOTAS system, or the collective and the stick. And I've very nicely got my CM3 throttles used as the power levers, and as another place to control some of the cursor systems and data input as well, if I don't want to go for the collective. And yeah, the Xbox controller working out really quite nicely for the TEDAC. There is a little bit of a problem depending on what you're using. Unfortunately, on the Xbox controller, your triggers are
single axis
rather than buttons. So there's some software called XPadder which you can use to allow to sort of map basically 2-stage buttons, which you might need for the TEDAC. However, the first trigger pull on the laser and the weapon, they're kind of irrelevant. Like, you don't really need them, so you could just get away with mapping just the second stage. It's basically like the first trigger pull on the laser is like a low power ranging kind of only system, whereas the second pull is like you're giving somebody sunburn with the laser. But for gameplay purposes, largely irrelevant. So yeah, it's working out really nicely. I think if you've got a good HOTAS and an Xbox controller, you can map everything that you need for the Apache to that. And I've found that you spend quite a bit of time in the keyboard unit, entering in coordinates and things like that. And what I've done is I've mapped the caps lock key as a switch. If you go into when you're binding stuff, you see there's an add modifier function. If you go into add modifier, there's 2 columns. One is modifier, one is switch. Add the caps lock as a switch, because what you can then do is I can hit the caps lock key. I can be typing away, and it's going into the KU system, and then I hit caps lock again, and now I'm back to a normal keyboard. So between all that, it's worked out absolutely fine.
Sounds pretty good. And yeah, I haven't actually managed to get that dual stage trigger thing working with the Xbox controller, but I do intend to get a solution for that because I like the idea. Even though the two stages are rarely used, I like the idea of actually having them because they're in the real aircraft. So I'll get that working eventually.
Frantic saying, see, I was having a think about the Apache. Now, after reading Ed Macy's Apache, when they had anything more than a few Hellfires, they would need to make a rolling takeoff, and that's the British version.
Keep in mind the altitude
yes!
they might have been at, and the temperature.
The exact thing I was going to say, because they're out. Like Ed Macy's sort of primarily talking about stuff in Afghanistan. And a lot of Afghanistan is really high altitude, so you have this density altitude issue, where you're just not going to be producing a lot of torque out of the engines, and your rotors aren't going to get in that bite. So I think there's might be a lot to do with the altitude going on there. I think down at sea level, probably they wouldn't have had too much of an issue.
Yeah, that's my assumption, not knowing anything about this actual situation.
Yeah. So again, early access, it might not be quite right. So we'll find out. I'm sure it'll. I'm sure we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it'll need tweaks. These things always need some tweaks here and there.
Yeah.
During the course of the last 2 weeks while we were away, our good friend, Daddy Wagner, has been exceptionally busy. Ooh, indeed. He's been very, very busy. He's released many Apache videos. We're not going to watch them all tonight. I'm going to kind of quickly whiz through them, and we'll have a quick comment for each one. So first, he has a half-hour video all about how to set up your controls. Now, I very much recommend that everybody does watch this. It's a good idea because he goes through a lot of stuff like how to set the trimmer modes correctly and so on. Yeah, it's a very, very long video. And also note that in the specials here, you've got the option to display the monocle or not, choose where the IHADS renders and so on. So that's quite nice.
Oh, actually, that's just kind of a point. For the guys who fly Apache in VR, bore sighting in VR is weird.
Yeah.
So the bore sight comes out, basically, it lines up with the bridge of your nose, not with the IHADS monocle. So if when you're bore sighting, get your concentric circles and put if you're only on the right eye, put it so the left of the crosshair is just touching the ring, and it seems to work better. People are reporting different things on this, so your mileage may vary. If you are rendering in both eyes, when you look down the bore sight tube, you're effectively going to go not cross-eyed, but you're going to see two crosshairs because they're focused out at distance. Put them on either side of the bore sight tube, and then you get a perfect alignment. So that's just my little throwaway there about that. Sorry.
Okay, that's a really good point. So yeah, like I said, this is a very, very long video. It's basically like watching someone fill out a spreadsheet. But there are good nuggets of information in here, so I do recommend checking it out. And then the next one he released, this is like my favorite, as always, the cold. I like a good cold start, I do. And of course, once we saw this, we knew that the release was imminent. So yes.
Yeah.
Fish finger sandwiches. Car, how dare you?
Fish finger. I want a fish finger sandwich now with ketchup. Yes, please. Who doesn't? Yeah.
Oh man, yes. So this was a really cool video to see. It was our first opportunity to see the aircraft being booted up, and it seems pretty simple. Like actually starting the engines, really, really simple. You and I, we found that the main thing is after you've got the engines running, you then have a bit of time to spend actually configuring your weapon system, setting up the TSD you want the way you want it, and so on. So there's lots of avionics set up, but just getting the thing booted up is pretty quick.
Yeah, and I mean, right now, I don't know if it is realistic if the APU could provide enough smash to do it. Right now, you can basically go battery, APU on, flick first switch, count to 3, flick second switch, wait for them to get both into the 20s. Put both control levers into the off of idle. They'll both start up, and when they hit 60, you can yeet both forwards into full power, and you're done. You can basically simultaneously start the engines. I don't know if that's realistic. Like, I'd be surprised if the APU could provide that much smash to get them going, but you can do it right now. So we'll wait and see how that develops.
I would suspect that's not realistic, but I don't know. The other one that I found interesting was the INU alignment is completely automatic and hands-off. And I don't know if that's realistic either. Surely you would have to. Surely you have to do something to align it. Is that realistic?
I believe it is, because it pulls in this version. It pulls your position out of GPS. Okay. I think you can go in and enter in, like, here's my start position. And there is then in the util page, there is. You can select whether you're on a ship or whether you're on land. So there are some functions, but if you've taken over an aircraft that has been put away and hasn't been moved, I believe, it's fairly, it just happens. It does its thing.
Okay, that's very interesting. Cool that it's so automated. Okay, but yeah, I suspect there are going to be some details that are not quite finalized as yet. This is very early access, but the basics absolutely are there, and you can follow a pretty realistic startup procedure. In fact, I think when we were flying it, you were in fact following a real checklist, and we were able to do basically everything that was on the checklist.
Yes, mine came out of the Dash 10. There was some DTU stuff that wasn't implemented. And that was about it. Otherwise, it was like, yep, that's the Dash 10 checklist done.
Yeah, it's very cool. Of course, when it comes to DTU stuff, we don't have DTU in any of the aircraft except for the JF-17 at the current time, and even the Thunder's implementation is pretty bare bones. So that was startup, and then after that, he gave us a little video all about the crew AI. Which was a good bit of fun.
Kills me every time. There's a little meerkat over the back there. Hello there.
Yes. I've never seen him do that. Does he do that?
So if you really want to weird somebody out and you've got room scale VR and you're sitting in the front seat, get out your seat and walk around, because what you end up with is this disembodied head coming around the side of the cockpit and looking in at you.
I saw a video of this and it looked really funny. It was pretty cool. Oh dear. Yes, but this was a good video because I've not flown the Apache with the AI at all. In fact, I've only flown it with you, and so I've got no experience of using George. But it looks pretty straightforward. It also looks very, very similar to what they've done with Petrovich, where it's really just like a four-way hat and a depress for the most part.
He's usable. He'll find your targets and he'll shoot stuff. But there are some frustrations, like he won't search. You can't just say, right, hey, George, go have a look, tell me what's out there. You have to cue him with your line of sight, and then you'll slave to it, and then you'll start looking in that area, and he'll pick stuff up. When you hit a target and you destroy it, if you want to then go to the next target in the area, you have to re-slave him back to that area. Like, you can't just tell him, engage the next target, engage the next target. So, yeah, it's all right. It's all right. For week one,
Yeah, it's perfectly acceptable. And these little overlays are pretty handy as well. I like what they've done there. It's kind of cool. So
really irritating in VR, though. Really irritating in VR because they've put the circle, the control information for George up like here.
Oh.
And if you've got your NVGs on, part of that is blocked by the NVGs, so you actually can't see all of that circle. It's really irritating. People have been moaning about in forums, and people are going, "Oh, but it's by design. We decided that was the best place to put it." And it's like, yeah, that's fine, but then you need to change the Z buffer so that it always displays over everything else. So
yes, exactly. It shouldn't be
Yeah.
half inside something. That doesn't sound like good.
Yeah.
Carr saying, that's weird. I would have thought he'd be very similar to Petrovich, but my mate Petro is a killing machine, says Carr. Very good. So then, after the AI video, our man Matt Wagner released a video all about day one questions. And I think this mostly he was talking about things like the trimmer that people were having difficulties with. I think he started to explain why some people were having a hard time using that. I think he also talked about. Oh no, that's a separate video. In fact, his next video he talks about the VRS and the settling with power. He doesn't mention it in this one.
I mean, I remember watching a video somewhere saying that VRS really isn't that much of a thing. Like, it's not something that really happens that often. Like, you have to really, 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 really have fucked up before you get into VRS, and that actually 70% of what people are experiencing is settling with power.
Yeah,
which is a different thing. So.
Can you define the difference between the two? Because I don't think I can.
So, vortex ring state is an aerodynamic phenomenon where you're starting to ingest as you descend in the column of air. Effectively, your vortices around the edge of the rotor are now starting to come back and be ingested through the top of the rotor, and you're getting turbulent air, and the edges of the rotor stop producing as much lift. Generally, the whole rotor disc stops producing lift, and you're on an express elevator to hell. And the way you get out of it is by basically flying forwards and getting out of the vortex, effectively. Bear in mind, I'm prepared to be corrected on this because I'm not a real-world helicopter pilot. I've just read a bit. Settling with power is that you are now you're coming in and you're pulling too much torque. And you get into like a state where you get, as you pull more torque, you get power droop, and you physically don't have, even though you've got all the power and you don't have enough power to arrest your descent. And as you pull more power, you put more demand on the gearbox. So two things happen. You are now getting low rotor RPM, and you're also now potentially getting loss of tail rotor effectiveness. And the way to get out of settling with power is reduce your collective and fly forward, fly away.
Okay. Yeah. So get the rotor RPM back and get out of the descent.
Yeah, and add a bit of right pedal maybe, because you will unload the gearbox that is sending power. Unload the transmission that's sending power at the back when you put right pedal in, because to counter the rotation you put left pedal in, which is tapping power off the shaft. If you put right pedal in, you're basically you're not tapping off the shaft. You're allowing the pitch on the tail rotor to go neutral when you put right pedal in. So that would be the other way to get out of it. Although, again, hashtag not a helicopter pilot, I'm prepared to be corrected.
Okay. And in fact, this next video that Wags produced, talking about exactly that. I think he does a demonstration, and he talks about how to get out of both. Basically how to deal with settling with power. You can settle with power because of
VRS. Yes, that is true, but a true VRS alone is pretty rare. Like, it's more often than not you are just settling with power rather than in vortex in a vortex ring state.
Oof, that was a hard one there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Ow.
Yeah, you're going to want to go.
Cartover said I've got it right, so there we go. I've done my appropriate reading.
Nice.
For all of this stuff, if you have a question about why the fuck do helicopters do this, go and look on YouTube for a channel called Helicopter Lessons in 10 Minutes or Less. And it is run by a guy. He's a former Apache instructor pilot, and he breaks down all of these concepts Barney style using a piece of paper and a Sharpie and draws diagrams and like anything you could possibly think of about helicopter aerodynamics and operation. Go check his stuff out because it's brilliant.
Sounds pretty good. Yes, we should all do that. Are you enjoying the weapon systems? Asks Channel Right.
Giggity.
Ah.
Yeah.
But of course.
It is awesome. The thump whoosh of the Hellfire getting launched off, that does not get old.
No, it doesn't.
And then watching the resulting shack on the TEDAC as well, and have your IR just bloom out for a moment and then come back. Oh, it's pretty good.
I had a lot of fun.
I got to grips.
Sitting in the front.
Yeah. I got to grips recently with the rockets. I was having a lot of trouble making the rockets work, and then I just spent some time practicing and watching a lot of the videos, and now rockets are like my favorite thing in the Apache. It's just, they're wonderful.
It's a really weird concept as well, that you have a fixed indication, you have an indication that follows your head, and the fixed indication moves in the opposite direction to the way you need to move your head in order to bring it in line. Mm-hmm. And then the pitch of your head is actually controlling the pitch of the pods. So like you're having
ranging.
you're having to do funny things with your head and then get the aircraft pointing the right way and then pull the trigger.
There comes a moment where it clicks in your head and you're like, oh, and you just get it, and then you're off to the races. It's good fun.
Yeah, it looks pretty cool. So that's all the Apache videos that we had. But we have some more. Like this DCS news is basically all videos. Red Kite has got his hands on the Mirage F1 CE, and he's released 2 videos. And his content is generally really, really good anyway. I always recommend checking out his tutorials. He has a good delivery, good clear delivery, and so they couldn't have given it to a better person. Except me. No, it's really good that Red Kite has access to this module, and he's demonstrated the startup for us. I hope this is how the aircraft starts, with the ladder down and the air intake covers on, because they did this with the JF-17 and the C-101, and I think I would love to see this with all of the aircraft, that they start with the engine inlet covers on. That'd be really cool. And of course, with it being a French aircraft, it has a funny Louvre position for the canopy.
Yes, I'm excited for the F1.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to getting my hands on this.
It's kind of it's kind of my era of interest as well. Like in terms of Cold War jets. I mean, the reason for me that I love this period of air-to-air combat is that it was just before BVR really became a thing. It was starting. So you had like pretty advanced jets, but you still had jets that were engaging in BFM. I mean, now in the modern era, the fight is done miles out. If you get to emerge, you fucked up, basically. So like this period of aircraft, it's right where it's at for me. Yeah. Absolutely loving it. And I love the HUD on this thing. It's so damn 70s.
I like the angle of attack indication on the left hand side of the HUD. It's really intuitive. It's actually very easy to follow. It's nice and bright, and it's very good. I don't know why modern aircraft don't do this particularly, because with the Western aircraft, it's quite common to either not show angle of attack at all, really, in most flight regimes, or you've got the three lights.
Got your donut.
Well, yeah,
you got your donut, but that's
But in some aircraft, the donut's not even lit unless you've got the gear down. And then some aircraft, they have a number in the HUD, but it's not graphical. It's just a number. So I don't know. I like this presentation.
I wonder if that's a simism, though, because you should have an idea of what your angle of attack is by the feel of the aircraft, like how much buffet you're getting, how the stick is feeling, all that kind of stuff. Max rate turn, you're basically pulling to the buffet. So you don't need, an angle of attack indicator to tell you that you're there, but we do, because we're playing a sim and we're not sitting in an airframe and we're not having our eyeballs riled. True. So I wonder if that's what it is, because the only time you really need your AOA is when you're landing, which is why in Western aircraft, you're right, the donut doesn't appear until you've dropped your gear down. So I wonder if that's a simism thing. But...
And the Harrier, which is the one that I fly the most, it's displaying your angle of attack I think all the time. Yeah, it displays it all the time, in fact, because there's so many phases of flight in the Harrier where you're flying an angle of attack. Like, as soon as you have the nozzles down and you're doing slow flight, you're watching that.
Yeah, and that's because it's specific to the Harrier, because angle of attack was so important at all those phases of flight, and not only angle of attack, but your yaw as well.
Oh yeah.
So that's why your turn and slip indicator is really prominent at the bottom of the rudder, because if you go even slightly off a yaw, you're going to start getting pop stalls in the engine due to the way the intakes were designed. So yeah, I can understand that, but for things like this, you probably just. I'm surprised that it's there, and I'm not sure why, because Chuck Yeager, famously, well, not famously, but one of the things that's attributed to him is when he got his, I think it was like his last flight, and he flew in an F-15.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
He was backseat. He was backseating a mud hen, I think, and the pilot up front, or wherever he was like, oh yeah, and of course, we're looking at our AOA gauge, and Chuck Yeager just turned around and said, if you need to look at your AOA gauge, you shouldn't be a pilot. And to an extent, he's right, because that AOA, you feel it in the aircraft. So
true. Although I got to say, in civil aviation, at least, it's becoming recognized that having an angle of attack gauge is a massive safety improvement.
Absolutely. And the reason for that is because you have very little feedback from the aircraft in civil flying. A lot of them are relying on force units and things like that. So in civil flying, it's a different matter. But when you're trying to stay on speed at 350 knots in an 8G turn, you can probably feel what your AOA is doing.
Most likely. Tog saying that we'll need some more Tech Gaming 45, in fact, saying we'll need some Cold War aircraft. And Tog mentions the MiG-23 and the Phantom, both of which, of course, are coming. But we'll get to that. Perhaps we should jump momentarily to the other Red Kite video. So he first demonstrates for us the startup, and then in this one, he demonstrates takeoff, which is pretty damn cool. And
of course, mimics the famous low-level flyover.
Oh, yes.
At the start of the video.
Yep. Just need a UH-1 Cobra. I assume you mean an AH-1 Cobra, Tog, to fill the Cold War helicopter gap. I would really like to see a Cobra. That would be cool, especially a more modern one.
Yeah, there is a mystery helicopter apparently. So, but we can
That's
talk
true.
about that later. Yeah.
But who's making it?
Don't know.
It's Razbam.
Is it Razbam that are making it?
It's Razbam who are making the mystery helicopter.
Yeah, but we don't know what it is yet.
Yeah, we don't know what it is yet. This is what I'm talking about, by the way, everyone. This AOA gauge. I was very impressed with this because it's child's play to follow this thing with the color coding and it's very prominent beside on the left hand side of the HUD. So pretty good. I like also that they draw a yellow box around the engine instruments in the cockpit. I think that's really a nice way of drawing the eye.
Yeah. Look here.
Look here. These are the important needles. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
And yes, he demonstrates
it's such
that
a 70s HUD.
Oh, it is
Such a 70s HUD. Yeah, love it. Absolutely love it.
And he demonstrates in this video the delay in the afterburner as well. So the afterburner starts spraying and then it ignites. And it has two lights even to tell you what part of that sequence it's in. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah, I'm gonna fly the hell out of this. It's I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be good fun.
Yeah, because this, it's not just an air-to-air machine. This thing,
no,
it is capable of some kind of rudimentary, unguided munitions in air-to-ground as well.
And the interesting thing that you notice with the cockpit is that you can see the DNA of the Mirage 2000.
Absolutely.
In the cockpit here, in terms of the layout, the way the master cautions are laid out, like even the startup process, even the startup sequence is like
it's almost the same.
Having flown the Mirage, I mean that's literally like rip that out, stick it in the M2000, and you're done.
Yeah, it's the same panel, and the autopilot panel is actually identical. So a whole bunch of stuff is actually directly lifted from this aircraft into the M2000.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool. This is going to be very interesting.
That big honking radar hood on the right there as well. That's.
And we've not seen that in operation
still dealing
yet.
with cathode, still dealing with cathode ray tube. It's love it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. It's going to be cool.
Same.
Okay, next we have, speaking of Razbam, funnily enough, we have an update from Razbam, and they've updated us on 3 of the aircraft they're working on. There's an IA-58 work in progress. So an Argentinian ground attack and counterinsurgency aircraft, the IA-58 Pucara, was produced from 1974 until 1993 and was used during the Falklands War and remains in service with the Argentine Air Force. This Razbam project seems to be making some progress, and they've shown us some pictures of the cockpit. Let's see if I can bring this up. Here we go. Let's take a look at that. Some strangely kind of low-resolution images of the cockpit, but I'm guessing this is in the model viewer or something. But it looks good. We're seeing the usual kind of level of Razbam cockpit modeling here, which in my opinion is good. They make some good cockpits. And this is a very interesting looking cockpit as well. Am I right in thinking the Pucara is a 2-seat?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's one set of cockpit images, and we got another one as well. They did multiple posts on this, I guess. So yeah, bunch of circuit breakers, present and correct, and loads of switches on the glare shield. And David says, my money is on the Falklands for the 40th anniversary in June. You wouldn't be the only one. A number of people have been saying exactly this.
Yeah.
Falklands map must be near release. That would be cool.
Yeah. It was looking good last time I saw it. And obviously the Pucara is... Yeah, it kind of goes with the Falklands. Although, actually, mostly just to be a burning wreck on the ground. So that's how it goes with the Falklands, because most of them were blown up really before they did much. So
yeah. As I recall, the A4s, the Argentinian A4s, had a very bad time of it as well. So a bunch of stuff about the Picara.
Yeah, I think the Picaras was they were mostly hit on the ground.
Oh dear. Okay.
Well, there was an SAS raid that basically killed 12 Picaras on the ground at it was 12 or something like that, on the ground before they even really did much. They just sent the SAS in and they blew them up. That was that.
Yep. Send the SAS, they'll deal with it. MiG-23. Now, we have not seen anything of the MiG-23 in a long time now, and people were actually starting to suggest that perhaps nothing was happening with it, but we knew better. We knew they were working on it. So we're seeing some progress on the MiG-23 MLA. Razbam have had this one on the roadmap for some time. It's good to see a number of updates on it. Here we're looking at the cockpit as seen from the exterior model. So this is going to be lower quality than what you'll actually see when you're in the cockpit yourself, but it's giving an indication of what it's kind of looking like. That's a pretty nice level of detail for the external model, I would say. Looking rather nice there. And from the other side. And then also they've included a shot of the panel itself. I guess it's missing the gun sight and the radar, but that's the basic panel right there, which looks pretty good. Looks very familiar from the MiG-21, really. Just maybe slightly tidied up from that one.
I'm right in thinking that this is the MLA. So this is the upgraded version, because I'm pretty sure the first version of the MiG-23 was like comedy bad.
Yes,
like
that's correct.
Was really, really awful. And this was I'm pretty sure the MLA was the attempt to somehow salvage something usable out of the MiG-23, because it was crashed here bad. And then they developed the MLA to kind of like, okay, we're gonna make it work.
This is the sorry. Very sorry there. This is the good MiG-23.
Yeah, this is the good MiG-23. That said, good is still a relative term when it comes to the MiG-23. As a fighter, as a ground attack, okay, actually not that bad. But I'm still going to fly it, because even though it was comedy bad, the MiG-23 kind of has a little bit of special place in my heart. I'm fond of it, and I'll still fly it.
Well, it's a perfectly good airframe for flying decently fast in a straight line and chucking some missiles. So, like it's definitely a capable interceptor. I don't think I would call it a dogfighter.
I don't think it was a capable interceptor either. I think apparently it's all around was really bad. and the Russians were very reticent to admit that any of their kit was bad ever. Though even admitted, the MiG-23, that's pretty bad. Need to do something about that, and it's little dangly ding dang at the back. I mean, that was like that was an addition in the development process, because it was like, this thing has no yaw stability or authority.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. Okay, so a car is addressing the different variants that were out there in the world. I think the MiG-23, it's a very, very interesting aircraft to me, because you see it as an export aircraft used by a lot of nations. So, of course, Syria, Libya, a bunch of other places. This was a heavily used aircraft. So I think it's cool to have it.
Yeah. The MLA, as I said, was there was an attempt to kind of fix some of the issues that even the Russians saw about the MiG-23, and kind of tried to improve it. But that said, it's still like, I still love it, and I think for its time, it was a really ambitious project. The design decisions that they tried to go with the MiG-23, for its day were really super ambitious. So again, that's why I like it, because it's it was trying to do something and also trying to do it on the cheap as well. So yeah, it gets my respect for that. But yeah, it's a thing.
Yeah. And apparently Razbam are working on another aircraft, Chuck. I wonder, what is it? What is it again? Oh yeah, the F-15E.
Oh yeah, yeah, the Eagle. Yeah.
Yes. So we have a picture of the undercarriage, which looks nice. I'm guessing these are flare buckets as well that we can see here.
Yeah, that looks like chaff and flare buckets. Yeah.
So yeah, you can see some
square packs.
Okay, some really nice detail here in the wheel wells. We can see stuff like the brake lines and all kinds of hydraulics and stuff. So that's nice bit of modelling. I don't think anyone has ever accused Razbam's modelling of being anything other than pretty damn good. We then also had an update on the pilot model, which I believe this is another case of them using their laser scanning technology, which is cool to see. So yeah, there's the laser scan.
It's the first thing I turn. It's the first thing I turn off anyway.
Oh dear.
Yay! Pilot model. Okay.
Yep. And another exterior shot here. A little peek at the Eagle. Looking pretty good.
Oh, that looks good. Oh, doesn't that look good? With its refueling door open and the light on there.
Absolutely, yeah. Got all the illumination on there. Ready to receive the
tasty
drogue.
Screenshot.
Not the drogue, the probe.
Screenshot there. The probe, yeah. That's
pretty nice. So that's all of the Razbam updates. They are, of course, working on even more aircraft than this. Not least of which, is it the BO-105 helicopter they're doing the modelling for? So that's pretty cool as well. So
yeah.
Razbam are busy boys.
And a mystery helicopter.
And a mystery helicopter. And at one stage they were talking about the Super Tucano, and I don't know if they're continuing with that or if it's on the back burner or what they're doing with it.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing I know is that Matt Wagner recently did a podcast, which who was it with? It was Air Combat Experience, and he did. If you go to Air Combat Experience YouTube channel, he did a really long podcast with them, about an hour, and they mentioned this mystery helicopter because they speculated that it's the Cobra, but Matt Wagner was like, "Can't talk about it. We're not talking about the mystery helicopter." So, who knows? But there was a couple other interesting things in there because he was asked a lot of, wide-ranging stuff about their development and things like that. But he got asked this really interesting question, which was, if you weren't, if you didn't have limitations, all that kind of stuff, what is the one map you would do? And his answer was fold a gap. And he has always said that is the culmination of what he wants to do with DCS is the Folder Gap, but the Folder Gap map has lots of challenges. So it's interesting that it's there on, at the back of the brain, Folder Gap, where like he definitely said he would love to see, Western Europe modern day map happening for DCS. And he also talked about the fact that they actively have people looking at a whole world map. In the vein of MSFS, where pick your location, add your favorite dictator, stir, stick in the oven, away you go.
Well, a little known fact is that the engine already supports this. Have you recently flown off the edge of one of the maps?
No, I've not.
So, what used to happen in much older versions of DCS was that you just got ocean after a period of time, or like there was just totally featureless polygons. Now what you get is you get the world. The whole world is in the game, but extremely low poly. So there was a guy who did a YouTube video where he actually flew from the Gulf map to the Syria map, and he was able to do that entire flight. And you can just about recognize the terrain, but there's no elevation, so it's completely flat. But the land masses are all roughly the right shape.
Right, but of course so if you fly from the PG map to the Syria map doesn't start loading in when you get there. Yeah,
no,
of course
it doesn't.
Yeah,
so you can do it. He demonstrated a flight between two. Actually, I don't even know. Maybe it was between the Caucasus and the Persian Gulf. Actually, I can't remember. But he chose two maps. He flew between them, and he was able to complete that map in a realistic in a realistic fashion. But of course, there was no terrain.
Yeah. It's just going to be like flat map with like coastline, I'm guessing. Yeah,
pretty much. So you can do it, but it's not very satisfying, and there's nothing to land on at the other end.
Yeah. So my thoughts on this are, it's a nice idea, but I think the execution of it will disappoint because ED are not Microsoft. They don't have an entire cloud computing infrastructure behind them and massive AI. I mean, Black Shark, I believe it was Black Shark was the name of the company.
Correct.
That developed the AI that basically took all of Bing Maps and turned it into a three-dimensional, flight sim compatible world. And I mean, the computing power they chucked at that was insane. I mean, and it was a technology demonstrator from Microsoft, so Microsoft were like pumping money into this. So ED don't have access to that.
Not even a fraction of that.
What? Not even a fraction of it. There is no doubt that they could come up with something that would be like, it's okay. But the thing is when you're wanting to conduct combat operations somewhere, especially in a low-level environment, you need lots and lots and lots and lots of detail.
Yeah.
Look at the detail that's in the Syria map. Look at the detail that's in the PG map and or Mariana. And I mean, trying to get a world map to that level, they can't do it. Like, okay, fine. If your interest is up at 50,000 feet in dogfight, then okay, yeah, it's probably going to be good enough. But like, if you're wanting to do anything with the ground, it's going to be a bit crap.
My suggestion to them would be to kind of expand upon what they already have. So this low poly kind of world map that they already have, beef it up a little bit, so add some low resolution elevation, add some satellite imagery, and actually have the other maps load as you approach them.
Yes, that for me would be
that'd be good enough.
That would be perfect, because then you can go between sort of high detail area and high detail area, but then why?
I'll tell you why.
Right. You tell me why, and then I'll shoot it down. Go on.
Okay, go for it. There are certain types of mission that have been conducted historically where there has been quite a long ferry flight involved, maybe some air-to-air refueling, and then you've struck your area. So you can imagine maybe you start off in one map, or maybe you even start off in the world map. So even you start off in a low detail area, you just take off and begin your flight, and the actual mission, the AO, is in a high detail area. You do your thing and then you come back. That could be okay.
Okay. Super edge case, though. Super edge case.
Admittedly.
I mean, okay, fine, operations in Libya took off from the UK, so fine, you could argue there's a big long ferry flight into Libya, or they took off from Cyprus, and they had like a big long ferry flight all the way over the Med. But like, then go look at both Iraq wars they were flying out of Bahrain, they were flying out of, Riyadh and Saudi airspace into Iraq, with like really short transit time and then coming back. And that was like, 90% of all the sorties that happened. Yes, I get it, but it's like a really super edge case. And people are going to want to fly from high detailed area to high detailed area. And I can't see the operational reason for flying from Syria to the Persian Gulf.
Yeah,
it's a bit weird. I mean, like, yes, I can see some scenarios that would do it. We don't really have aircraft that operate that way. If we had transport and logistics,
B1B,
yeah, okay. Yeah, or yes, if we had something like that was a bit more of a strategic system, like the B1, yeah, I could maybe see it. But we don't have that, and we know that they're not getting added because, like ED have said, and Matt Wagner has said that I'm sure it was Matt that said it. Certainly, somebody from ED said that trying to do any aircraft that requires more than 2 crew is pointless. And they're not going to do it.
Yeah.
Because, like, it just, like, trying to get that many people together, like, yeah, I'm sure that you could get that many people together, but it would be in multiplayer. And as we have often said, and as ED has often said, multiplayer is a vanishingly small percentage of the user base. Yeah. So now you're into an AI scenario, and we've seen how that goes.
You're not going to get the sales.
They're not going to do it.
Yeah. You're not going to get the sales. You're not going to get the monthly active users. It's a waste of time.
Yeah. So that's my counter to the kind of the point of the world map. I think, like, it's a nice idea. What I would rather see is the democratization of the tool set to build maps.
Yes.
To allow third parties to create more maps. Because I am constantly frustrated by ED's attitude around, we're ensuring quality in our in our third parties. Yes, totally. However, the market also ensures quality.
Exactly.
And the more, okay, it's not entirely open, but the more open system was what allowed Microsoft Flight Simulator to flourish through the 90s and the 2000s and turned it into the behemoth that it is today. This closed system that ED has is crazy, and it all just comes down to money and wanting to get their 30% on the license, and it is going to forever mean that DCS is ultimately a niche product.
They have been becoming
more
soapbox,
open. So I shall step down now.
They have been becoming more open over time, I have to say, because we're seeing way more community mods, whereas in the past that was hard/impossible. So they're slowly opening up, but not nearly enough. They should do a lot more of this.
I don't see it happening, but I think rather than dumping all this effort into a world map system, democratize the map tools and let third parties produce maps, because it's the use case for combat flying outside of strategic bombers is really limited for a world scale map.
That's true. And actually, Carr was making the point that most players are not even making use of the space they already have. And I think in a map like Syria, I guarantee they're not.
Totally, that's a really good point. Most people, they chuck a shit fit when they get shot down more than 5 minutes away from their base, because, like, I don't want to do a big ferry flight and get shot down. So they just all the battles happen with air bases really close together, and it's like, and now people want a world map.
Yeah, it's probably not worth it. But yeah, Syria, I agree with Jep. Syria, excellent map, best map in the game right now, and need more best of Iraq. Also agree. If we, because the thing is, we are already covering so many areas that are really, really historically important. The fact that we've got Lebanon and Israel and Syria and Turkey and Cyprus. If we can get more of Iraq, that area is so historically interesting, and you can create so many good scenarios. So yes, totally agree.
For me, feature complete on DCS would be linking up the Persian Gulf and Syria map by putting Iraq in and having it as one massive map.
Huh. Yeah.
Having the Mac loop, like so Wales and like a bit of up in the Lake District for some low level LFA training, and a Western modern day or 80s era Western Europe.
Let me give you
map wise, that would be me feature complete.
Yeah. I'm not even thinking about maps. I'm way more interested in data links, data cartridges. Give me transponders, like proper simulation of transponders, IFF, and the completion of the radio comms that DCS has integrated would be really, really nice. Like if DCS can deliver good radio comms built in for multiplayer with transponders and IFF properly simulated, that'd be really cool.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. If we were talking about feature complete for everything, I'm just talking about maps. But yeah, I would be right on that ball. David Flute in chat just called out better combined arms. Absolutely, make the ground war a thing in DCS. Like I've said it a few times. I would love to see like DCS M1 Abrams. Like that would be just amazing. You know, if we had like ground modules, and they hinted at it back at when combined arms was a thing, that might happen, but it's never really grown. So yeah, absolutely that as well. But just in terms of maps, a UK LFA, link up the Persian Gulf and Syria map, and give me a Cold War era Western Europe.
Mm-hmm. Sounds pretty damn good. Alrighty, moving on. One video was posted by Matt Wagner just before we went live. I've not even seen it yet. And it's for the F-16C Viper, destination page and offset aim points are coming to the sim. So I've not seen this yet. I'm familiar with these functions inside Falcon 4, inside the F-16 in general. So it's cool. This is, continuing to flesh out the functionality of the F-16, because the F-16 is such an incredibly multi-role and multi-purpose aircraft. It's so capable. It's really, really nice to see more of these avionics features get fleshed out. I'm just taking a quick peek at chat there. So anyway, I've got no idea what he does in this video. I assume he just demonstrates the feature.
Yeah. I mean, like the F-16 that I knew is so different now. So like I'm immediately lost because they've just added so much, and it was been years since I looked at BMS, so my systems knowledge is like long gone. But I'm sure our F-16 boys are going to be all over this.
Oh yeah, and the thing is, they've already received so much cool stuff. In the previous update, the one that brought the Apache, in fact, we had big updates to the data link, which was really cool to see. So yeah, lots of really cool stuff coming to the F-16, and hopefully a hot fix for the Apache and the Fleer as well, inbound. So that'll be pretty cool. Probably not much more to say about this video. Go ahead and check it out, everybody, especially if you have an interest in F-16 avionics. So, is there anything else for the last 2 weeks, or is that all the news we've got?
No, that's it. Been loving the Apache and loving life in the Apache. Because I've just been waiting for it for so long, and then sort of finally getting my hands on it. That's kind of mostly what I've been doing, and spinning up 6 AAC. So
I was just going to touch on that. Yes. See, the only thing that makes the Apache even better is flying the Apache with friends.
Exactly, and that's been a thing where we're starting to we've not really opened for recruiting yet, because we're wanting to build a training syllabus and SOPs first, and that's there was some stuff happening before Apache came out, but now that Apache's out and we've kind of got got our hands on it. We're you know, the pace of that has developed. Thursday night we had our first operational mission, and it was a humbling experience. We learned a lot from it, so it's fine. That will all go into our SOPs and training, so it's been good. But we're a ways away from opening the doors yet. So
stay tuned. But as always, we should take this opportunity to give a shout out to the VAF. Both myself and dotChuckles are founders of the Virtual Air Force, VAF. It's an online squadron where we have a kind of opt-in milsim style experience where you can join us as a freelancer and fly any aircraft you like in any of our sessions, or you can join one of our numbered squadrons. We currently have them for, now let me see, F-16, Harrier, F-18, F-14, A-10, and soon the Apache. You're running the Apache, but as a kind of closed squadron right now.
It's a closed squadron right now. Yeah, that's right. Whilst we develop our you know, tactics and techniques and things like that, and when we have something that will give people a that they'll get some value out of, then we'll open up. Because right now, people coming in, they're not going to get any value. They're not going to get a quality training experience, you know, and they're going to get a bunch of missions where we get killed a lot because we're still learning how to fight with the system.
Yes.
So once all that is squared away, then we shall open the door. We have a waiting list though. We've got a recruitment center. If you go in, there's a little form you can fill out, and it'll pop your name in the list, and we'll start taking people first come first serve for their training sessions when we get there.
Yeah, if you have any interest in joining the VAF as a freelancer, or joining one of the numbered squadrons, or if you just want to hang out, it's perfectly okay to come and talk simulation or anything else. You're going to find the Discord link for the VAF Discord in the show notes below. Please go ahead and join us. You'll be very, very welcome. And if you want to come fly with us, we do training sessions on Tuesdays. We do a mission every Thursday. We're tending to do what we're calling server takeovers on Saturdays. And in between days, people post into the Come Fly With Me channel quite regularly, looking for people to fly with. So there are lots of ad hoc sessions going on in between times. So please check it out. Indeed. So, he's been dotChuckles. I've been Deepak. I do a tutorial video every Saturday, currently doing them on the FA-18C. Most recent video was today on laser-guided bombs. Those tutorial video premieres are followed by the DCS news, which just happens to be this thing, what you're watching now. I hope that you've all enjoyed it. It's been a fun couple of weeks, and hopefully I'll be back to the kind of regular weekly schedule once again. So yeah, if you haven't already, please subscribe, like, and comment. It's a real big help to the channel. And I'll see you all next time. Fly safe.